So here we are, it is fight week. Tomorrow is the big fight this Saturday. Joseph Parker, Fabio Wardley, a heavyweight matchup. Winner of this most likely fights for the undisputed against Oleksandr Usyk. Here is my preview and my official prediction for the fight. Let's get into it. So let's start with Joseph Parker. Obviously he is the A side, he is the favourite for this fight. He is coming off probably the best form of his career. He says this is the best Joseph Parker that there's ever been. He's in his prime right now. Obviously coming off that win against Martin Bakovi, coming off the Jie Zhang win, and then also coming off the win against Deontay Wilder. That's three big names there on the resume. Now, I'm going to nitpick those a little bit. And this is not to degrade his wins by any means. But, we don't really know. This is a different test, I think, because Wilder, it wasn't the best Wilder on the night. Zhang was dangerous, so that was probably the most impressive win out of the lot of them. Zhang is very dangerous, but also, wasn't Zhang is old now, isn't he? You know what I mean? And then the Bakovi fight was on short notice, and that's not his fault, obviously. He's just beating who's ever put in front of him. So this is a different test because this is someone who's young, hungry, and has coming off a good win against the Fraser Clark one. Had the win against Huni. Wasn't the best performance, but to be fair to him, was also training for a completely different style. Was originally meant to be Fabio Wardley versus big baby Jarrell Mia. Very different fight to Justice Huni, so I do give him the benefit of the doubt on that. But this is also a big step up for Fabio Wardley. Now, I will say real quick, I really like both of these guys. I don't really have a preference of who wins. I think Parker deserves the shot, so I'd probably favour Parker if I had to choose. If I could choose who would win, but I do really like both of these guys. If Wardley wins, I'd be really happy for him as well. Big fan of Wardley. Love his war by name, war by nature. His post catch phase now he's got going on. And yeah, a really exciting fighter as well. The David Adewale fight, I remember that one as well. I said both the Fraser Clark fights, brilliant fights for different reasons. And the Huni fight, I mean, you can never rule him out. It was a pitch perfect punch, wasn't it? Right at the end of the fight, he was using every round. Looked like he was hurt a few times. Wardley himself said it was an off night for him. And, it happens to the best of them. What matters is that who wins. It doesn't matter how you perform. What matters is who wins. And end of the day, Wardley was getting out of box, but it was his hand that was raised by the end of the night. So, people make a lot of, how do I say this? People make a big deal out of the performance, but they don't make a big enough deal of the fact that actually he won the fight. So, fair play to him. This is a massive step up for Wardley here, You do have to think, in that first Fraser Clark fight, it was a draw for a British level, fight, whereas now he's stepping up to an arguably top 3 guy in the world. Maybe not even arguably at this point. I mean, Tyson Fury probably second, Usyk first, obviously. And then Parker's 3 or 4. I mean, Caballel's there as well, so you can make a case for it. But this is a massive step up for Wardley, and, respect to both guys for taking this fight. Because, again, Parker didn't need to take this fight either. Parker could have just sat back, and just waited to be called mandatory. He is the mandatory for Usyk next, so that fight would have probably been made. But he says, I want to be active. And he keeps saying that. He wants to be active. It's not his fault that he's inactive, which we'll get into in a minute. But, because he wants to fight. It's just no one's fighting him. But let's get into that real quick, the inactivity of Parker. And I think this is one of the big things that could work in Fabio Wardley's favour, in the sense that Parker has not had many rounds. I mean, since the Zhang fight, he's only had 2 rounds, and that was against Bakovi. So really, if there's a bit of ring rust there, that's massively going to favour Wardley. Wardley's been a lot more active. So Parker, it might take him a little while to get going, be completely sharp, completely fresh, all that stuff. So that's one thing that Wardley is definitely going to be looking at. We'll look into it a bit stylistically. I think stylistically, again, this is going to be a different Wardley. I'm expecting a different Wardley to what we saw against Huni. Because, again, Wardley, for most of that training camp, was training for Mia. Then he had to fight a very different fighter in Huni. Whereas now, the full focus of Wardley has been on Parker and his style. So I think it'll be a different Wardley. But we do know, ultimately, Wardley, he is a brawler. He's a scrapper. He's as tough as they come, When he's hurt, that's when he's at his most dangerous, When he's cut, and I think he will be cut again this fight, his nose, it bleeds every fight, it's inevitable. But that almost spurs him on, So he is a very, very dangerous man. He's been nicknamed the British Deontay Wilder, and with good reason. You know, won every single fight and majority of them by knockout. So, you know, he does hit like a truck. Parker, I think, has very good power now as well. He's very underrated power since he's bulked up, put the weight on. I think he's more technical for sure. The more technical fighter. Got a good jab, good uppercut. That uppercut could be key because again, Wardley, when he's against the ropes, especially we saw on a Hughie fight, sort of leans forward a bit with that yo guard. So that's going to be a key shot. But ultimately, I think Parker early on is going to be going around the ring using the jab, staying on the outside, picking him off, maybe trying to walk him into shots. But the question I have is when Parker does decide to start letting his hands go more, starting to throw those combinations, is Wardley going to try counter or is he going to try throw with him? You know, is he going to try stand and trade or is he going to wait for the combination and then immediately throw back? You know, that's what I'm interested to see, the game plan. And I would say there's a lot of confidence. You know, fair play to Wardley. He's not yet this occasion get to him. You know, it looks like he seems very confident, sounds very confident. Ben Davidson, his coach, very confident as well. He said recently, I think it was on TalkSport, that he thinks Hughie was actually a better fighter than Parker. And they're saying that they think this style is a better matchup for Wardley stylistic wise. So I'm, very interested to hear that. There's a lot of confidence from that camp. Obviously Parker, there's a lot of confidence there. There's always going to be confidence there. Parker is backs himself truly, and as he should. He's a top level boxer. So my official prediction for this fight, I'm going with Joseph Parker. I'm going with I think it's the obvious pick. I'm going to say Joseph Parker by a 7th round stoppage. I think it's going to be a pretty comfortable night's work. Again, you can never rule out Wardley. Again, he has the great neutralizer, which is his power. I just think Parker is better in pretty much every other aspect. And that's no disrespect, that's just because he's way more experienced than Wardley. I mean, you could look at the argument, but he's been around so young, Parker. I think he's been a professional for like 13 years. There's a lot of wear and tear on his body. He's been in a lot of hard, grueling fights. So there is the possibility that's taken a lot out of him as well, and that's what Wardley will be looking at. But I just think, the experience. I mean, Wardley doesn't have any amateur experience. He was a white-collar boxer, went pro, and he's done absolutely amazing. It's the fairy tale story. I just think now this is a step too far. I think the level's too big of a jump. And I think ultimately Parker's experience and, just the fact he's been in this situation so many times before, and his confidence will be touching the ceiling, you know what I'm saying? It'll be that high. So yeah, I'm going to go with Parker, a 7th round stoppage. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, share the video around, all that good stuff. It's all greatly appreciated if you want more boxing content. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next one. Take care and enjoy the fight.